In this video, we're going to talk about different approaches or perspectives in psychology. This is going to be a general overview, and your psychology class will probably go more in depth about each one of these. So let's start talking about behavioral psychology. So behavioral psychology basically states that all behavior is learned. That's the key thing about it, the word learned. Now, it's either learned by classical conditioning, where, for example, you know that your bed is the place you sleep at, so when you see your bed, you get sleepy. That's kind of the idea of classical conditioning. The name you need to know with that is called Ivan Pavlov. That's the guy who came up with it. Another way in which behavior can be learned according to this perspective is by rewards and punishment. It's called operant conditioning, and the guy who was associated with that is B.F. Skinner. Behavior could also be learned by observing that behavior of others, and that's called social learning theory, which Albert Bandura came up with. Now, originally, behavioral psychology was called behaviorism, which is more of an early perspective. It was founded by John B. Watson, and behaviorism used to say that psychology should be a science and that we should only study behaviors and not thoughts. Now, it is agreed, at least in modern times, that psychology should be a science, but most psychologists do not agree that we should only study behaviors and that we should ignore thoughts and emotions. The next perspective we're going to talk about is going to be humanistic psychology. Humanistic psychology focuses on the free will of humans, the fact that we have choice, and focuses on personal growth. It also focuses on fulfillment, having needs met. It has a positive view of human nature, and it focuses on maximizing a person's potential. One person involved with this was Carl Rogers, and the other important person was Abraham Maslow, who had his hierarchy of needs, which I kind of summarized right here. You may not need to know it for the first chapter of psychology, but I believe once you get to the later chapters, you will have to be familiar with it. Cognitive psychology is another important perspective. Cognitive psychology focuses on a lot of things, like the processing of thoughts, language, memory, perceptions, different ways we think about problem solving, and you could even throw intelligence into cognitive psychology. The person associated with this is Jean Piaget. He was a Swiss psychologist, and the important thing that he did was he had theories on children's cognitive development. So he had some stages, and that's something that you will learn about in the development chapter. Biological psychology is going to be an important chapter. It focuses on looking at things like the brain, hormones, genetics, neural circuits, neurotransmitters, and the effects of drugs on behavior, sleep stages, and neuroscience. So that's how it analyzes behavior. It tries to look at the nervous system, the endocrine system that has all of the hormones and other biological processes to try to explain behavior. The next psychology perspective we're going to talk about is called sociocultural. Sociocultural psychology focuses on society, social context, and culture, so it focuses on social influence on people's thoughts and behaviors. It was founded on the work of Lev Vygotsky, who believed that the influence of parents, caregivers, and peers had an effect on the development of higher order functions. There is going to be a chapter on this called social psychology, and there's a lot more to this than a few bullet points, but it's an interesting chapter, and you'll have to learn a lot about it. The next perspective in psychology is called evolutionary psychology. It focuses on how behavior was affected by natural selection, and the person associated with this is Charles Darwin. This is kind of a continuation of functionalism, which was an earlier perspective and version of this. The last perspective we are going to talk about is called the biopsychosocial approach. So the bio refers to the neural, the endocrine, and the genetic causes of behavior and mental processes. Psycho means psychological, and it just refers to cognition and theories on learning. And then the social focuses on the sociocultural effect that being in a social environment has. So now let's practice what we've learned and apply it to this situation. Let's try and use each of the psychology perspectives to explain why someone would be angry. So explain anger. So go ahead and try these yourself. Behavioral, it would be something along the lines of the anger is learned. So the person has learned to be angry for some reason. And for humanism, it could be that they need to have their needs met, and they're trying to do it through anger. Or it could be that they're just choosing to do it. It's their free will, right? For cognitive, it could be that they have a perception that causes them to be angry. And you can even look at theories on the way emotion is processed, and then go through it that way. For biological, it could be a certain hormone level is too high. It could be the person has too many of a neurotransmitter that makes them angry, or it could just be genetics or a brain circuit that leads to anger is activated. Things like that could work. For social, it could just be that someone made them angry, or the presence of others makes them angry. And for evolutionary, it could be that anger helped their ancestors survive, so they have adopted that behavior. For social, you could also say that culturally they have a reason to be angry. Their culture has told them to be angry, or something societal. So that's the video. I hope it was helpful, and thank you for watching.